But the question is suggesting that whatever evolution that you have chosen to act on with what you shared about your letter and taking action on your own emotions and reflections and accountability toward writing your letter. I was thinking of the contrast between all of this time that you were living before the letter and now the letter. How I'll say how do you define the difference between the before and after? I kept coming up with it must be very, very freeing to walk through a door that was inevitable for your growth and for you to choose that growth without being in control of what you could experience. So, as we create, are we in control? Or as we dare to create, do we allow the controls to be loosed?
Well, on the second question, this last one, what do you say before I say? Here, what's good is what I find is always the best answer is the most expansive one.
Mm-hmm. So for and I was reflecting on you from to understand my own, give myself opportunity for lifing and for choosing and for being a creator, is that it is freeing that you get to choose
Hmm.
at
It
every
can be.
point. So then that scriptures, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadows of death, I will fear no evil came up as well. So you can experience wonderful things or not so wonderful things,
Yes. And both of those are choices.
but daring to live whatever those things are, to not to not be limited by fear of intrepidation or pain or anything that you don't want to experience.
Mhm.
It's freeing that it does not limit you.
That's right. That's and even and I don't think, oh man, it's fully loaded. So it so many people would prefer to choose the same choice again and again and again rather than anything new. So holding on to it, holding on to the old choices. There's so much in that, but that's a outcome or that's a result of it, and we just don't see it. And because we don't see it, because it's the only option we've seen,
Mm,
and so yes, you say it's like that fear of something new, that fear of trying something new. And when I say trying something new, like every moment, ev because it's like, oh, that's what I would normally do. Well, what's the opposite of that? Okay, that one. I'll do that one. But inside of patterns that are always running, inside of emotion that says yelling, no, not that. Do what's familiar, comfortable, what you know you can control. So before the letter, after the letter. Mm.
hmm
And and then what I'll say is 3 years of self-awakening and moving into the letter point of view. It's working, it's seeing my self-awareness in a relationship.
Just
We lost her. Double tap.
Mhm. It's all good.
So are the kids getting ready to not a sound in the house, but they're starting to stir up? Chris.
Yeah, the youngest one is always scheming of how she can get out here earlier, and then the older one was wanting to sleep in longer. So here's what Dad said. Audrey, yes, come out here, open your presents. Troy, you sleep. And when you wake up, you come open your presents. Yeah.
So the little one
I,
is rubbing them out now.
yeah.
Hmm.
And there was no response from Mom.
She's saying, Dad's gonna take care of this one.
Oh no, she's not. You just icing me out.
I think when people do that, they're also icing themselves out
No, without a doubt. They
because
sure are.
often when they do it, it's because they actually don't know what they really want themselves.
Merry Christmas, Allison.
Merry Christmas, Allison.
Yeah, and Heinz, for sure. It's a doesn't know if she wants to let me in or not.
I think it's like that continent Allison and 13-year talking about the defense. It has so many layers. and it's
Yeah.
controlled by fear.
Merry Christmas, Allison.
Merry Christmas, Stacy.
Mm,
We lost you,
Morning,
Cinderella.
Wilson. Yeah, I got lost.
You got
I'm back.
lost.
Yeah.
I did too. I couldn't find my glasses. And I can't see my phone anymore without my glasses.
Oh, I'm glad you found your phone and your glasses. I hope.
Me too.
Good.
I was
Just see.
wondering what talking, finding your glasses and saying good morning had to do together, but I understand now.
Like I can't hear you. I don't have my glasses on.
Right. It's like, okay. Because she came in and we said Merry Christmas, Allison, and then we sat in the tension, for the response, which is what we practice, right? It's like, and it's like, okay, nothing there. All right. She must be looking for her glasses was my first comeback. So
Jesse, I
Cinderella,
apologize. I missed your sharing about before and after the letter.
mm, I was waiting.
Thank you.
Mhm. You were going to ask me, but if that was the question, then I'll go there.
Yes, I'm ready for your share. Share where you were.
Merry Christmas, Annette.
Good morning and Merry Christmas, Annette.
Good morning. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Wow. Hear that
Okay.
joy.
Mm.
Good morning, Nanette.
Good morning. It's a great day.
Yes.
We create another day.
Had a
Creating
really
light
nice
and love.
Christmas. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, just creating light and love.
Yes.
Mm.
I had a wonderful Christmas Eve dinner with my two boys, and no pressure in preparation of it. We ended up having it at around 8 o'clock at night, which was okay. And everybody just kind of pitched in with what they were wanting to do or capable of, and came together, and it was awesome. And then I watched Godzilla after that.
Mhm.
What's what?
A Godzilla movie.
Oh, Godzilla.
Yeah, one of my boys likes Godzilla, so we watched a movie that he liked. So my boys are all in their 20s.
Yeah. We watched the Christmas Story. Ralphie.
Oh,
So we're in the question. Thank you, Cinderella, for a little background or before the letter, after the letter idea, concept. And I was just saying that 3 years has been my journey, self-awareness, awakening, and seeing my automatic default choices now choices is not a very good word here because we don't think that our behaviors give us choice. That's what I call awares, to be aware of the patterns and then make a new choice. Merry Christmas, Chi.
Merry Christmas.
Oh man, do you sound so good.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Oh my goodness, what is in that voice this morning? It sounds stable and strong and confident and joyful and full of love, my man. Thank you.
Wow.
Mm.
That's so well described. That's just exactly how I feel.
Mm,
Yeah, it's a good place to be.
yes. Welcome.
Thank you.
And so, Sindrell, like it's been a journey, like I said, journey. 17 years of a pattern entangled with a partner, a spouse, and 12 years of a pattern that continued before that. And so 17 years of sweeping things under the rug. That's in a sense what both of us have done. And we've come to a point where, and we've opened the closet and we're looking at all these skeletons, all these pieces, all these hurts, all these old patterns that are now that we swept under, thought we could get through, around, forget, avoid. Here's a forgive. And we realize, well, I can say I realize we haven't. And so as I look at this, it's like when I look at and see my patterns, I see what I automatically do, and then I gauge that in with what I want. And then I try to do something that's opposite. That's going through it. That's rather than sweeping it under the rug, that's facing it and going through it. And that is where we can allow it, as part of you asked earlier, is like, is it controlling it or is it allowing it? And I don't even think it's controlling it more than just doing the automatic. So the importance of the letter for me and was the word empathy.
Mm.
To put myself in someone else's situation. How it could have been, what it must have been like, how it could have been like, because we swept it under the rug. So if it is, and I asked to understand what that must have been like so that I could, again, so then I could understand, because I know what I was doing. I know how I thought, what I felt, how I justified it. I know all of that, but I don't know what it caused until 17 years later. And nor could I listen because I was in my story. And so I asked to better understand. And what I noticed in that ask was I'm putting a burden on them when I could show some movement that I could make an attempt to understand. And so I did was make my first attempt to understand, to really put myself in their shoes, to just walk one page letter. It's not much, it's not enough, and it's not the same thing. But I don't want that pattern playing any longer. And I really don't know how to get rid of it, to move through it, to allow it to create other than to create new ones. So I'm making my best steps to not replay it, to not sweep things under the rug, to face them, sit in the tension of it, and see what's on the other side.
Wow.
Alcoholics Anonymous calls it making amends with those that we have hurt. So that past patterns don't predict future behaviors.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful life. Mm.
May I ask a question about her?
You may.
Is she open to doing something towards the marriage? As like putting it back together for dialogue in a positive way? Is she open to that?
Not in this moment.
Okay.
The letter was delivered yesterday.
Mm.
Spoken, I spoke it, delivered it, and we had conversation. So more opening is happening. These skeletons are coming out, right? It's being released, it's being spoken. Little by little by little. And that's the way it's got to go. Sorry,
But
Annette.
she's handing you bricks then. She's handing you her bricks.
Yes.
Okay. And whenever she shares a brick, just thank her. Because the moment you throw a brick back, she'll build that wall right back up again.
Mm.
Yep. Yep. That's
When I was going through something similar as you, there's an organization that I reached out to, and they also had support calls. They have them pretty well every day. Anyways, one of the things that they did talk about is that there's an order. In the end, there is an order when trying to work out an issue. And they're the 5 E's, and you kind of have to start with ease, explore, explain, engage, and then excel.
Wow, that's so nice.
Because you can't do explain, and they actually do it on their hands. So explain is the middle finger. So how you do ease and explore will determine the explain part.
Yeah.
But and explores your index finger, because that's what you do when you find a little hole or crack. What do you do with your finger? You kind of put it in there and you explore with your ease is the thumb, because that's what you kind of do when you're pushing a button or something, easily doing that, right? Engage is the ring finger, and excel is the baby finger. But there are programs out there to help where you are now, and just for the support of understanding what's going on. But this is a huge step what you've done.
Mm.
You have identified that you want things to change in a good way.
That is a big step. That's different. And it won't look different to anyone else. So that's a reminder.
Mm.
Yesterday, you were referring it to as your new marriage,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want to take the baggage of the old one along.
No.
And you're at that point. You've had 3 years to come to that. And she's had 3 minutes of information to try and come to a point where you're at. So she needs time.
Mm-hmm.
I applaud you for your courage and your bravery, courage to come to the realization of the predicament that you're in, and the bravery to do something about it in a way to keep your relationship intact with the one that you love, the one you love the most.
Thank you for recognizing, acknowledging, and I hear you.
Good morning, Craig. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Craig. Thank you, Annette.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Good morning. Merry Christmas,
Craig.
Craig.
I'd like to say something about what Annette said when she spoke about the brick.
Mm.
And what came to mind for me is that the bricks belong to our ego.
Mm-hmm.
They're part of the defense, right? And what I think is so amazing about how you are able to hold the tension, Jesse, with what you're doing, is to me that is serving the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you take that brick, you serve her soul. And then there's a point, and it's far from now, but it will come, at which you have to tell the soul that you can't take any more bricks.
Mm.
Because if you do, it's not serving your soul anymore.
Ooh, that's so good. You cannot pay for the past, but you can pave the way for the future.
Yes. And even at that point, you give the soul a chance to respond, or the ego a chance to rethink whether it wants to give another brick or whether it will allow its soul to lead. And that's what you do when you hold the tension. You're holding your own ego accountable to your soul. Or better still, what you're doing is you're allowing your soul to lead.
That's a benefit to everyone's soul.
Yes.
To lead and release.
Mm. Mm. And as you've often said, Jesse, it's so simple. Doesn't mean to say it's easy. I think it's the most difficult thing that we ever have to learn. But once we engage in us with ourselves and with life in that way, life opens in a way that we could never, ever have imagined.
Yeah, most people on the planet have no idea that they can do this, that they can affect change like this.
Mm. Mm.
Oh, it's affecting change in a big wave kind of way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It caused
Yeah.
me to have a conversation with a woman yesterday, a dear friend of mine, and she's in a marriage as well, that it's two opposite polars, but they were together at such a young age of structures that they had adopted. And then when they came together with having children of their own and being on their own and getting their first place, all of those kind of stages. Now, you can look back and see the dysfunctionality of how they came together. And it's just two people that she doesn't feel seen or heard or valued, except when it's convenient. And it's caused her to dismiss many of her own feelings that she stuffed away for so long. But it's like now she can't ignore it anymore. And we're having this conversation on the intersectionality of something I heard on a recording of, and we've talked about it here, how the universe, the Mother Earth, and those of us that dwell therein, the greater population is like no longer the minority. Those who want to live a heart, soul, truth of evolution, the vibration of us is just like changing. We're changing, we're responding, we're directing, we're creating, we're being aware, we're being drawn to this higher spirituality of evolution, and it's making a big wave. And so people who have allowed themselves to not be counted or felt or allowed their feelings to be just as instrumental as anything or anybody else's, we're walking in this calling, is answering the call of the call. And in answering the call of the call, this resonance of our souls is speaking.
Mm.
And I think what she's going through is just an example that she speaks now. She doesn't just let her structure of herself to be assumed, because her structure no longer can house her spirit, her answering the call. And we would not have had that conversation yesterday to give her a place of oddity to express such a thing if I did not share the impression that Jesse's letter, the very act of his letter, it moved me so to share with her so she could share what she would not have otherwise aired. So there's a huge resonance of, and we talked about compassion. There's a huge compassion being called out, where it can't just rest. It can't like hide. It can't even hide behind the brick wall anymore. It's almost like it's making the, just little granules of this brick wall just disintegrate, just granularly, because we're answering the call of our true souls. Craig, you talk about it sometimes too, right?
Oh, yeah. And that's the, I want to use my words carefully because I don't like these words, but that's the responsibility or accountability. I'm looking for a better word for that. But the responsibility that comes with being aware of these things. You know, once you're aware, you can't be unaware. And I'm realizing that when we get together in groups like this and we have discussions about this kind of thing, we're some of the first people on the planet that are becoming aware of these dynamics. And there's a responsibility that comes with that. Because this is deep stuff that people generally don't want to talk about. You know, these are deep wounds and deep hurts.
Yeah,
That require a lot of, require a lot of courage and fortitude to even look at.
Yes, they do. And I agree with everything that you've said, but I want to remind you again, we are not of the first people on the planet to do this at all. The fact that we're doing it is enormously important. There's no doubt about that for me. But we are very far from the first people on the planet to be doing this. And I don't know why, but that is important for me to speak up about.
That's true, Allison. It's we're just of the chosen or the ones who have accepted to do this kind of work.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just feel like I was so blessed. I've been able to access communities like this since I was 20. And those communities have been in existence for thousands of years. Anyway, it's a bit beside the point. But I just feel it's important to say. The more important thing is that I think you're right, Craig. There is a calling to an accountability. Because you have to make that choice over and over again. When I'm 64, and even though I had access to this knowledge at 20, I still created a marriage in which my daughter was emotionally neglected. I mean, I would be having an interaction with her, knowing exactly how wrong it was going, and I could not do anything about it at that point. So to talk about courage and fortitude on this path is very relevant.
So I liked what Craig said as well. And what comes up for me is that it is, in a way, the shame and the embarrassment that it got to a certain point when we realize it, and then we don't have the words to express what we've come to, what we've done, what we've fallen into, or not realize what we've been living. And then there's the action of seeking somebody to help us understand it. And that is huge. That, we fall then into, okay, we haven't gotten help before, and we've managed this far. If we just don't say anything and just hide the skeleton away, then we can still continue to cope in this world, which we do. But we always know, or we carry that shame with us underneath everything. So a group like this is wonderful because we're able to start pulling those things apart. If it's not in the group, in the discussion, it's listening to the discussion, and we can reflect in ourselves.
Yes.
And we get our aha moments. And sometimes that's just enough to give us the courage to reach out and get help. Or ask a question in the group. That's what's so cool about this group.
And what else is important for me in this group, and it's also something that we've said before, it's just listening now to what Sindrell described, and then what Craig talked about, and then what you've talked about now. And as I listen to it all, I can feel each of you connecting the dots for yourselves. And I know often when I speak, that's exactly what happens for me. And when I hear Jesse speak, I can hear him doing the same thing too. And how we facilitate that capacity in each other to do more and more and more of that. And we become aware of more and more coordinates in our own orbit, let me put it that way. And we become aware of which dots to connect to give the structure more authenticity and integrity, and which ones we can set aside. And that's focus. If you bring that focus from aware, then you're coming from compassion. If you bring it from a sense of vigilance, of keeping guard, then you know that you're working with the ego.
what we are sharing here is like, for me, is like food for the heart and for the soul.
Mm.
And like our body needs food, yeah. Our minds are hot too. And when it's high vibration, it's like wholesome food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very nurturing.
So for a reminder of us, it is that we are whole, complete, and equally genius in our greatness and gifts. The wisdom to say yes and.
Mm.
Yes, and here's a dish of compassion. Here's a slice of compassion. Here's a shovel of compassion.
When you said that, something landed differently for me, Jesse. In a
How?
really good way. Sorry. And I just said in a really good way.
Mm. Jesse, when you reminded us about geniusness and yes, and I heard option. Yes, and option.
Mm-hmm. Potential. What's next? It's looking forward, not backwards.
Mm-hmm.
That is just an anchor when we do that. Not the good anchor. It's like a fish hook. Got it through our mouth and it's dragging us from the past. It just says, keep looking at me here. I'm here. This is the past. That's the good news is it doesn't always have to be that way. So today, again, I am going to practice compassion, engaging compassion, delivering compassion, being compassion. And I'm learning what that is and means to produce new patterns. My tendency is the old patterns, and those will be playing all the time if I'm not focused on something else, something new. And I'm we spoke about it again and again. It's like I'm focusing on creating new, while those old patterns are there always. And it's not the number, it's not the times, but it's I was going to say the quality of them. So intentionally do have quality compassion intersections, not all the time, but just one time each day is enough with each of my family members. That I can do.
You can do that, and you can smile.
Yeah. And I do that. I can remember, I need the reminder. Thank you. And don't take the bricks personally.
Don't take your own bricks personally.
Yeah.
Because
I
it's
love
not really the past that's the villain. It's the story that's told about it.
That's right.
That's right.
And that's the bricks, right?
And I love Danette's image about building a path instead of a wall. Using the bricks to build a path.
That is what they are. This is what we need. Great.
Yeah.
There they are. Let's make it easy. Let's explore. What's the middle finger?
I would love to. Yeah.
Easy, explore.
Yeah. So ease, explore, explain, engage, and then excel. And this is something that it takes time. Each stage has its own time, right? And but yeah, it's and it's with every relationship, not just with your spouse. It could be with your kids, could be with your parents, could be co-workers.
I love it. Thank you, Annette.
It's really nice that. I would love to read something to the group. Are you guys ready for like it'll take me about 2 minutes, I think. I hope.
Yes, please. Yeah. As we close.
Okay. So this was from a lecture or a talk that Ram Dass did. And he was with a colleague of his, whose name is Tom Berry. So it goes like this. Tom was telling me about giving a lecture in Canada with the Cree and other nations. And the night before he was to speak to this group of Indigenous peoples, he went outside and he looked up at the moon and said, "What should I say?" And the moon said, "Tell our story." And then he went and asked the gopher, "What should I say?" And the gopher said, "Tell our story." And then he asked the mountain, and the mountain said, "Tell our story. Tell our story. Tell the gopher story. Tell your story. tell our story. In a way, this is our story over and over again. We come into form, we get lost in the form, and then there is an awakening to see our predicament, that we are lost. And as long as you're lost in the form, you keep perpetuating the suffering that is the experience of entrapment in form. And if you would free another, you've got to be free. It takes one to know one, takes one to touch one. But the thing is, you can't wait till you're enlightened to help people. So you're caught in the dilemma because your heart hurts. You can't say, I'm sorry, you've got to just starve now because I'm working on myself. I'll give you food later. So you do what you can to relieve the pain of our heart. But you do it as an exercise on yourself to become free of somebody doing anything. In order to become an environment for other people where every interaction you have with them is a space in which they can become as free as they choose to be. And there's nothing in your mind that keeps trapping them into being somebody.
Ned, what was the fourth?
Engage.
It's engage.
Engage and excel.
Hey, Allison, I need about 10 days to chew on that quote.
Oh, for me, this is a
Oh my
lifetime.
goodness.
This is a lifetime. This is our work. And this is what I feel this space has become. And I am so grateful for it. I was thinking last Christmas how different I felt because of the group. And I could never have imagined that we could carve the space that we have carved by this Christmas. So thank you so much, everybody, and especially to you, Jessie.
The place have become our story.
Yes, to learn to be in space, to learn to be in silence, and allow that silence to be with others that we're with. As Sandrell was explaining. We take the silence from here and it's like Jessie said, you take a shovel full of compassion, or you give a shovel full of compassion.
Wow. Ode to the universe and the sky.
Mhm.
Ode to all your thoughts drifting, yet not passing by. Painting across the horizons and horizons and horizons and horizons, uncountable yet to see. Ode to all your hearts and the flow of liberty.
Mhm.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
Merry
Christmas and deep gratitude.
Yes.
Yeah, Alison, can you put a link to that quote?
I can't. It's a course that I was with, but what I'll do is I'll do a copy and paste in the Heart Centered group.
Awesome,
Thank-
thank you.
You're
Thank you.
very welcome.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you
Merry
all.
Christmas.
Yeah,
Bye for
Merry
now.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Blessed.
Have a
Have a
good
great day.
Yes.
Yes.
Love
Nice.
you
Love
guys.
you all.
Love you all.
Love you all.
Love and